With Annette's Astrology Corner, and I am here to talk to you about the event that's going to be happening this month. And so on July 25th, we are going to have Venus retrograde in Virgo. And I really want to talk to you about this. I am writing an article. I will post it on my website. I'll probably post it on my Facebook. But for those of you that really honestly don't have time to sit there and read lengthy articles, I thought I would just shoot you guys a quick video letting you know, what to expect. So, during this retrograde cycle, we're going to have a lot of energy in Cancer when it goes into the retrograde cycle. Now, the way that I look at astrology is probably a little bit more different than your standard astrologer. I believe that although natal transits are very important to understand, I believe that everybody is subject to the energies up there in the heavens. How those affect you does directly apply to your natal chart, but I am more about energy and manipulating energy and high and low vibrations of energy, and how to work through these transits, because I truly deeply believe that all of us feel, especially if you are an empath or intuitive, or you are just very in touch with energy, I believe that you will feel the energies coming, and you kind of need to know your way through them. So to understand the energy that's coming, I want to give you a little background. Now, first of all, Venus is the planet that rules love and money, right? Partnerships, marriage, anything that you do where you're going to join, your ventures together, legal matters, contracts, such as that. And it is going to be going into Virgo. When it goes into Virgo, it is in detriment. What does detriment mean? It means that an energy, when it goes into a place where it is not entirely comfortable, where it is not able to be optimum, can often succumb to the low vibrations of that planet's energy, right? Or that sign. It depends on if your sign is in detriment. So in this case, when Venus goes into Virgo, it is in detriment. It doesn't like being there. It kind of takes the air out of the balloon, per se. And so you will find that when this transit happens, and you'll feel the energies even before that. The energies are already starting this week. You're already starting to feel your past pulling on you. There's a lot of energy. When I release that's the week I'm talking about, you're already starting to feel the energy shift. You're already starting to feel that pull to your past. You're already starting to feel many of the powers that are going to be at play in your life. So, it's a great time to document what you go through leading up to this, because I believe those are going to be a lot of what you encounter and what you go through in the end of this transit and what you learn from. So when Venus goes into Virgo, it goes into a detriment state, which means it often falls into, when it very first goes into the transit, it falls into the low vibration of Virgo energy in the areas that Venus rules. So the low vibration of Virgo energy is very important to talk about, because it's a very intense energy. The low vibration of Virgo energy is just being very, very hypercritical. You analytically think about love as like a business deal, or as like a mutual agreement. you're not swept up in love and caught up in infatuation and swept away by romantic intentions. No, you're not. Although I'm not saying that Virgo energy can't make you feel lost. It's a very sensitive energy. In fact, it's more sensitive than I think a lot of astrologers let on. However, logic will overrule that feeling to need to be swept away. There has to be a clear signal that this is going to be a progressive energy for Virgos to embark on it, for a Virgo energy to embark on it. So for many of you, you may feel kind of like almost halted in your love energy. Like if many of you started a new relationship, which is not recommended during Venus when it's in a shadow period. When it goes into shadow, it starts to get ready. That's why you start to feel a lot of the energies build toward this Venus in retrograde. It's why you often feel like you're in a retrograde before you are actually in that transit, is because you're in the shadow side of it. Then when it stops, right? That's when the energy, it's almost like when you take a match and you ignite the match and you put it on the wick, and then it ignites that wick, right? To whatever it is. It could be a bomb or it could be something as simple as a candle, right? But whatever it does, it initially just ignites that. The energies that fall after that is the cascade of events. So as, you know, like let's use the analogy of a candle. You light your candle, you know, it goes down into the wax. When the wax starts to melt, that's when it releases the scent. That's kind of like the process that you're going to see. So we're going to have a big ignite on the 25th, right? And I'm going to tell you what that is. I personally believe, and I'll talk about this in my dailies, and I'll give you guys more of the intuitive side of it, more of the empath side of it. But when Venus is in Virgo, it's going to be squaring off with Saturn and Scorpio. That's the ignite on the 25th. So you are going to have a karmic pull to your past. Now, anytime a planet is in retrograde, it looks backward. You know, it's not technically, the planets never go backward. They always have a forward orbit, right? But on Earth, it appears as though that planet is going backwards. So when a planet appears to be going backward, when it is in retrograde, then a lot of the energies reverse. So normally when Venus is in a very happy place, like when, you know, Venus is in Leo and it's not in retrograde, it makes you want to pleasure seek. It makes you want to fall in love for the sake of falling in love. It's all heart. It feels so dang good in Leo energy, which it's going to go into after, it'll retrograde in Virgo, and then it'll retrograde back into Leo. And I think that's going to be a better placement for all of us. We're going to feel a little bit better. However, when a planet goes retrograde, we're looking back at our past. A lot of relationships are going to come back from your past. Perhaps relationships you wouldn't see coming back from your past. Now, say you're a person that has a lot of available possibilities. You know, you have a brand new relationship, but you have this karmic relationship that's coming back from your past, or this soulmate or this twin flame. It is really honestly time to revisit your past relationships. You know, there is a pull, especially when we have Venus in Virgo squaring Saturn in Scorpio. There is a question about your past. Somebody that you love deeply, somebody that was very, very important to you. You know, for most of us, when we meet people and we fall in love and we get caught up in that infatuation and then we just go for it, a lot of us find out that those can be very tragic relationships. That's because most of the time they're karmic and they're here to teach us something. But there are some relationships that actually dissolve because of poor timing. It doesn't mean that you were never meant to be with them. It just means that at the time that you guys met, there was a karmic lesson in place. But you're still meant to be with them. But then the breaking up of that relationship and the losing that relationship helps you to grow and move forward where you wouldn't have had you stayed with that person. But doesn't mean that you guys weren't still destined to be together and still destined to meet. And it wasn't in the cards that you guys were never ever going to align again. That's why I tell people, when somebody leaves your life, let them go. This was very difficult for me to learn because I don't like loss. I'm a Cancer. I have a strong Cancer placement. And so I don't like loss. And so I hold on with my little crab claws way too long. When if I just let them go, let the universe take care of what it needed to take care of. If it's meant to be, it always comes back. Or you feel a strong desire to go get it. But either way, there's a destiny will play back in your guys' lives where you guys will align again. So we could find relationships coming back into our lives that were around the time of 2012 to 2014. We're definitely going to revisit some of those areas. And it's going to be difficult. So we have Saturn in passionate Scorpio, right? In this, there is so much intensity and deep feeling when you are in a Scorpio energy, especially when Saturn's in there. And this is a lot of feelings of loss and regret that Saturn is drudging up right now and asking us to tie up and resolve and talk through and forgive and forget. Like there's a strong desire for Saturn to tie everything up. Saturn is in its last degrees in Scorpio. It's not going to ever be in this transit for another 30 years. So it's really wanting you to tie up and many people went through an extremely painful time back then. I would say that was one of the hard, between 2009, definitely. It started in 2007, but 2009 to 2014, definitely the hardest years of my life. But out of those years, the absolute clincher of like I couldn't feel like I could take any more was between 2012 and 2014. It was just one thing after another. It was such a painful time, but such a time of growth that I didn't really understand back then. So what I want you to understand is that whatever comes up in this retrograde, it's going to come up from your past. It could be with relationships with old partners that you have that come in with a new opportunity and say, we talked about this idea back in 2012, 2014, but, the economy wasn't strong enough and, do you want to try it again? Like, are you open to it? And you could say, God, yeah, I think I'm ready to venture out on my own. I think I'm ready. I think that my authentic purpose is no longer serving a corporate environment. My authentic purpose is to, go out and do this venture. I've actually been thinking about it too. So it could bring really good opportunities back from your past. Saturn squaring off with this retrograde it's not all about the bad stuff. Saturn in Scorpio is about transformation. Saturn can remove obstacles. If everything is aligned and the karmic debt has been paid and you are in the highest vibration of that energy, you have the best intent, it can absolutely start removing some obstacles and start creating powerful opportunities in areas that you desperately need it in. Now, if it is not, it's about going back and trudging back up some very painful times in your life and really talking them through and really getting in the best vibration of those energy to bring you closure, to let it go so that you can heal. And through letting it go, then the transformation happens. Remember that with Scorpio energy, there is always going to be this death of something for the rebirth to happen. There's always going to be this, something's going to end for a new beginning to happen. That's Scorpio energy, especially when it's sitting in Saturn. So anything that comes up, it's going to be really, really important for you to pay attention to, especially if it involves past relationships. And we're talking about people that you love. There may have been somebody that you loved from afar many years ago, but during this time frame, somehow you get you just cross each other's paths, and it sets off some, pretty powerful conversations, and it emotionally starts to dredge up a lot of a really positive feelings about the back in the old day when you first met that person. Now, because Venus is sitting in a very analytical energy, this isn't going to be like fireworks go off, right, you guys? I mean, although you could have deep feelings because you have all this gorgeous Scorpio energy squaring off with your Venus energy. But it's going to be something like, I have thought about you for so many years, and you're going to have glorious, glorious conversations, I think, in this transit. So this transit goes on from between about July 25th to about the 31st, right? And then it's gonna sink in, and it's gonna go back into Leo. And I think once it goes back into Leo, I think we're not gonna feel so overwhelmed. When Venus energy is in Virgo, it is about others. It's about doing what it takes to resolve things for others. And so I want you to understand that if you did something to somebody back in 2012 to 2014, and Saturn's in here stirring the pot, trying to get you, it's making you think about it, it's making you have regret, it's making you feel guilty, it's making you feel like you need to go contact that person, this is the time to have a really positive outcome, because that person that you're going to be talking to is not going to be so emotionally overwrought over what happened. They're going to be much more analytical about it. And they're going to say, you know what, thank you for touching base with me. It means a lot to me that you're saying you're sorry. And it could start off a really positive chain of events over this retrograde cycle. It's a great time for past relationships, past financial endeavors. If you had a creative thought back then, it's a great time to pursue that creativity. It's not a good time to start a business or to really embark on that creative endeavor, but it is definitely a time to really analyze it and get down to the nuts and bolts of it and really talk things through and allow love and the passion that you feel for these endeavors really push you forward realistically in those relationships. So say somebody comes back from your past and you guys start to talk, and the spark is there, it's ignited, and you feel it. You could decide that counseling might be good to really put in some healthy mental practices to help heal all of those wounds. So maybe you guys would go into counseling together. Say if a relationship dissolved and you guys just can't stop thinking about each other and you can't get over it. This is a great time to set up routines that get you to reconnect with each other, maybe through a mediator, maybe through somebody that can help you work through these issues together in a healthy way. Virgo energy is all about setting up healthy physical and mental well-being practices. And so if you guys have been feeling bad about yourself, this transit is excellent to set up some healthy routines. These are all really high vibrations of this energy, but there is some very negative and very hardcore energy that can come along with this, especially when we've got the Saturn in opposition. So I just gave you the highest forms of vibration. The lowest forms of vibration in this energy, if you are not in a very good place, you could fall into some of the low vibration of Venus in Virgo's transit. And that is if you just have deep-seated issues about yourself, if you just don't like yourself, if you haven't made peace with yourself, if you can't look at yourself and love yourself, then obviously nobody can ever love you. And, this transit is a really good time to get down to that, because those feelings of inadequacy and self-loathing are going to be magnetized during this time. So something could come up that sets off a chain of events that makes you feel like you aren't worthy of somebody coming back from your past, or you're just not worthy of love, or maybe you've been alone for a really long time and you just feel like you're never going to find love. And through that realization, through this loss, through this darkness, you may decide that enough is enough. There may be enough power in this transit, as well as with Scorpio squaring off with it, that you may find that it pushes you over the edge and you seek out some counseling to help your mental well-being, get back up to where it should be, where you can sustain it, where you can make it healthy, where you can help it to grow. Again, we're talking about sometimes energy goes in there and tears us down to build us up, or it creates a loss to give us a future in something, to bring us a new beginning. So understand that you could go through a health scare. Absolutely. A past health scare. Maybe you let it get out of control because you were too caught up in all of this benefic energy of the Jupiter and Venus conjunction that was going on. And so, I don't know, let's say you have a heart condition and, but you fell in love and you guys just did that thing that lovers do. They just go in and they just gain a bunch of weight together and they eat real bad and they don't have healthy practices. Maybe a health condition comes up during this time and really scares you enough to make some healthy routines. That could be a definite possibility, especially if it's a pre-existing health condition. It could resurface during this time, and it could be a scare, definitely a scare. So what I would say is that is just your jolt to say that's just the universe's way of nudging you in a healthy direction. Virgo energy does rule physical health as well as mental health. So you could also have something that comes up from your past that pushes you over mentally, that makes you aware of some deficiencies that you have in your mental wellness routines. It's a great time if you guys aren't into meditating, or if you guys aren't into staying in the highest vibration of energy. It's a great time to pick up skills on how to do that and to develop a routine, because this energy will help you progressively move forward with setting up a commitment to yourself to do those things. It's a great time for that. It's a great time for you to take a look at, what you deserve in life. Virgo energy can be self-loathing. You can be overcritical of your appearance. You can look at yourself and all of a sudden think, what, if I just do a nip or a tuck there, or if I, starve myself or don't eat, or if I work out or whatever, then I'll be desirable to somebody if I've been alone for a long time. That's the very, very low vibration of this energy, but it's still a possibility. It still could be that jolt that you need to say, what, I am overweight. I eat a lot and I'm overweight, and that's my fault. And so you just could snap to the point to where you're just done feeling this way about yourself. Now, granted, you could go into really some self-loathing behaviors in this transit, and they could become magnified in this transit. And I bet you these are issues that you were having back in 2012 to 2014. And they could really kick your ass during this transit. So, like, say if you're an emotional eater and, you have a tendency to binge when you are unhappy, you could find that something sets you off and makes you extremely unhappy, and you binge, and all of a sudden you just get this aha moment where you're like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to live a slave to binge eating. Or, maybe you're a cutter. Mutilizing yourself is common in a Virgo energy because they just never quite feel good enough about themselves, and so they're hypercritical with themselves as well as with others. And so you may find that you just critically look at yourself, and you may fall into some self-sabotaging behaviors. But understand, in order for us to stop them, we have to see them. We have to know that that's what we do to relationships. I think many of these are going to be partnership related. So maybe your partners will say, you know, if you continue to do that, I have to leave. Like, I can't live like this anymore. You know, you either pick your self-sabotaging behavior or you pick me. You're going to see in this transit as well, relationships that are fragile, crack and break. Absolutely. Number one thing that's probably going to happen that you will see a lot of breakups, sudden breakups in relationships, because this energy is going to go in and analyze and critically take a look at your relationships, and it's going to test them and see where the fractures are, where the weaknesses are. And if it's just not pliable enough to deal with this kind of energy that makes it go like this, then it's going to break. The energy, and the reason why I say this is that all of the energy that leads up to this you know, Virgo retrograde is a bunch of Cancer energy. And just about every aspect of your life is going to be sitting in a Cancer placement. So that energy is very, very, very emotional and very deep. And everything you do, from how you go through life, how you passionately pursue things, how you love, who you love, you know, how you communicate, how you emotionally connect with people, how you emotionally manage yourself, you know, who you are, your authentic purpose, how you identify yourself, is all sitting in Cancer energy. Cancer energy, to me, when I picture it, is the equivalent of ocean waves, right? Sometimes the tide goes in, sometimes the tide goes out. When the tide goes out, it reveals beautiful treasures, right? And then it comes in, and then it covers all of those treasures. So there are times when you're going to be okay, and emotionally you look like you're all right. And then when the tide goes out in your emotional well-being, you know, it's when everything is exposed and you are raw and you are real and you are vulnerable. All of this energy leads up to this incredible transit that is actually being squared by Saturn and Scorpio. So when the tide goes out and it reveals all of the treasures that are in your sand, on your shore, some of you don't have treasures that people want to see. Some of you have vulnerabilities. Some of you have weaknesses. Some of you have self-sabotaging behaviors. And so when the tide goes out and you're vulnerable like that, and this emotional wave comes to you, and you're so naked, you will then unfortunately have Mars ignite a passionate response to that, and your emotions will get the best of you during this transit. So there's going to be a lot of testing whether or not these relationships can go through highs and lows, and you know, and that's why new relationship endeavors are not recommended to be embarked upon during a Venus transit, because a new relationship can't take highs, lows right away. You know what? It needs a time period of a high, or a steady climb of a high, for you to get to the point to where you can go along with somebody after you're in love with them enough, after you've passed that. Many people will mistake infatuation for love, but infatuation is needed for us to be able to fall in love. But I know that when I got married, you know, I probably didn't love my husband, truly, deeply love him, for about a year. You know, we went through our honeymoon stage, and we went through that rough first year where you guys learn to live with each other, and then it's not about the high of the relationship anymore, that ultimate high, which is infatuation. It's about, oh my God, I love this person, and I love the day-to-day routine with this person, and I love everything about this person. Understand that Virgo energy rules routine. So many of you are going to find out if you guys can handle the routine of being around each other in for the rest of your life. If many of you made decisions about getting married back in July when the energy was really high and in vibration, and when Venus was conjuncting Jupiter, and when, you know, you had all of this energy in love and heart and passion, right? But now we're talking about day-to-day routine. We're talking about, you know, are you guys healthy together? Can you see yourselves long-term, really, really long-term, maintaining a healthy relationship? That is going to be revisited in this energy. It is a very, very, very powerful time. I think you guys are going to see the best and the worst in people. I think, you know, the stuff that's being dredged up, you know, 2012 to 2014, I think was more powerful than many of us understand. And there are relationships that were established that were life-altering. And for many of you, there were bonds that were created during that time that impacted you on many levels. Mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. And these areas are all being looked upon during this Venus transit. I hope you guys, I hope this is helpful. Again, you know, I'm going to write a big article on my website. So, you know, if this message is kind of all over the place, because when I communicate like a Gemini, and for some reason, you know, sometimes when I look at my messages back, I'm like, you know, I didn't structure it in the right. It's so funny because my rising sign is a Gemini, and so I communicate like a Gemini, and so when I look at myself, I'm like, oh, 1 minute I'm on this topic, and the next minute I'm on this topic, and I try to tie them all together and make it sound really good, but sometimes it is just all over the place. And so when I write, I find that I structure things better, and I can go back over it, and I can be more fluid with, you know, like a nice fluid movement with my writing versus when I, you know, communicate verbally. Anyhow, I did the best I could. I hope you guys enjoy this time. Look, whatever comes up in the end of July, the first couple weeks in July, the last couple weeks in July, and all the way through, when we go into August, I think there's going to be some major restoration in a lot of areas in your life. I think we need to have a very benefic energy go into detriment so that we can stop relying on what's easy or what we're taking advantage of. You know, if we go through a tough spot, we test the strength of those relationships and of those bonds and of those partnerships and of those, you know, financial endeavors. And, you know, it makes us stronger. I would personally love to be stronger if everything just went my way. And so that's why you're going to see Saturn toward the last couple weeks of July. It's going to be squaring off with Saturn. So you're going to have Saturn and Jupiter squaring each other, and they're going to be fighting about, you know, how this lesson gets taught to us. You know, benefic Jupiter wants to go in there and give us all these blessings to help us get ahead, right? But Saturn wants us to have a lesson in a more controlled output, so we are given the right amount of stimuli to keep going, but still not enough to where we are still thirsty to keep going. You know, like we're tasting crumbs, but we want that frackin' whole piece of cake. You know, that's kind of what these energies are going to be fighting about in July. So just know that if you're experiencing like a start and then a stop and a start and a stop and a start and a stop, it is okay. That is exactly what we're supposed to be feeling, because we can't eat the whole damn cake yet. Like, we're not ready. We're not ready. We don't have enough discipline to just, you know what, we can have a few crumbs, but if we eat that entire piece, we're going to go back for seconds and thirds and fourths, because you know what, our mental well-beings and our physical maintenance, we're not up to par yet. So we're given these crumbs for a reason. Whatever crumbs that you are given in July, understand those are probably what's going to keep pushing you forward. And so the relationships that come up, they're not going to come up with a vengeance. They're going to come up and they're, when you have Virgo energy, it's very slow moving. It's very precise in its movements. It's an analytical based energy. So even if something beautiful comes up from your past, and it could be a passionate, long lost love, or it could be an unrequited love that they suddenly just realize you are the one for them, it's not going to come back in like Leo fashion where it's all Leo, rah, rah, roar. It's all like passion and forward movement. It's all about heart. No, the only way that you're going to get your heart to engage in this energy, for these to progress forward, for these to move forward, is for it to mentally engage you, for you to mentally be okay with it. And that's going to take time. That's why you're eating crumbs instead of a piece of cake, because you're not ready to just stop at a piece of cake. You can only have the crumb. I hope you have a fabulous, fabulous end of the month. Look at it for what it is. It's just energy shaping and molding us. This is immutable energy, so we're going to be clay. Everybody's going to be clay to a certain extent, even the fixed energies that are like, they're just not as moist of clay. For mutable energies, this is going to be just a delicious energy of like forming and shaping you into that beautiful piece of art. For fixed energies, it's going to be, your clay is going to be wet enough to take a sculpting knife and sculpt it, and form it into something. It's not quite as mutable, but you're still able to form that piece of clay. For water energy, I think that this is going to be very overwhelming. I'm going to be honest. And I think that your clay is going to be almost too wet. And because you have a lot going on in water energy yourself, you don't have time. It's going to be overwhelming for you to revisit your past. You know what? So you're going to have to take your crumbs a little bit slower than most, and and you're going to have to let your clay dry out a little bit. So be very slow in your movements, okay? All of the water energies. In the last 2 weeks of July, just look at it like you need your clay to sit out and harden a little bit, because you want to get it into the form. But there's too much water energy right now for you to really, for that clay to keep its form. Thank you guys for watching Annette's Astrology Corner, and I look forward to talking to you again about the next astrological event.